It's for you. He asked curiously, what is it? Her heart filled with joy, and she said in a bright voice, I think we can move on to the next stage. We've finalized the ultimate combination for the research. Licht also knew the ingredients for the next stage, which were different from the materials the young lady had requested before. Luciana scratched her face awkwardly and handed him the list. Yes, the materials this time are difficult to store and the quantity is larger, so it's a bit troublesome. He only glanced at it and firmly guaranteed, no problem, my assistant will prepare everything. His confidence annoyed her a little. He wasn't a queen ant or a worker ant. He was just the one paying the money. But Luciana didn't mind too much, thinking, forget it, if not for him, this research couldn't proceed. Forgive my presumption, may I take some samples of your hair? She sat up gently, a movement that made Licht flinch. Just 5 or 6 strands will be enough. My hair? Before he could agree or refuse, her hand had already reached toward his head. Wait. She apologized softly. I'm sorry. Licht could only close his eyes, smelling her fragrance. She's too close. I'm going to die. Luciana focused on selecting the hair, then looked at him blankly. Seeing his uneasy expression, she felt guilty again. What does that look? Is he afraid of having his hair pulled? After a while, the overly nervous Licht asked, is it done? She also wanted to finish quickly, so she pulled back. Done? He must have felt a little pain. Luciana had to find an excuse to break the awkward atmosphere. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, and she requested to leave uneasily. I'm going home now. Licht's pale red eyes followed her. It seemed she was actively pushing the research process forward. He couldn't help but worry about her health. What if something happened to her? Maybe she had been working too hard recently. Therefore, he couldn't help but consider solemnly, for the sake of the young lady's health, we don't have to rush the research so much. A trace of surprise flashed across Luciana's face, not quite understanding what this meant. No need to rush the research, but she didn't want to take advantage of his kindness. Thank you for your concern about my health, Duke, but shouldn't we remove the brand as soon as possible? She wore a bright, yet distant smile on her face. Only in this way can we live our separate lives. In his heart, Licht didn't want this, and he quickly took a step forward. Live separate lives? What does the young lady mean by that? Luciana paused and scratched her cheek. She didn't know why he asked that. His mood had suddenly changed. Did I say something wrong? She still insisted that the plot must unfold. He already had his fated partner. He had a real heroine, and I was just a villainess. But I can't tell him the truth. Luciana blinked, unable to explain clearly, so she found another way. I can express it vaguely. Thus, she smiled and shrugged, gracefully changing her tone. That day will come. I believe that one day you will meet your fated partner. These words turned his confused face into one of shock. What? Like a bolt from the blue. What do you mean by fated partner? Both of them looked at each other expressionlessly. Why is the reaction so big? Luciana had no choice but to look away and explain vaguely. Well, even if it's not fate, there's no reason to let your guard down. Currently, the relationship between us is not special. We are only connected by an accident. Licht's eyes also darkened, and he did not deny it. The brand that appeared that day was just the result of getting caught up in bad luck. Basically, she wasn't wrong. But his heart protested strongly against this fact. But why does it sound so unpleasant? She smiled again to end the conversation. Please notify me when the materials are ready. Suddenly, as she spoke, a drop of red blood flowed from her nose. I'm going home now, Licht. Seeing this scene, he quickly stood up and raised his voice. Hey. He moved quickly to stop Luciana from leaving. His hand rested gently on her hair. Wait, don't move. His other hand quickly pinched her nose to stop the bleeding. She's already like this, yet she still wants to continue pushing herself. Licht's deep voice reached her ears. Bear with it a little until the bleeding stops, even if it's a bit uncomfortable. That intimate moment made her blush. Thank you for the first aid. But his perfect face was right next to hers. We are too close. After a long while, Licht finally removed his hand from her face. The bleeding has almost stopped. He reminded her carefully, then quickly turned and left. Wait for me here. Luciana, in a daze, subconsciously obeyed the order. Where is Licht going? Just a few minutes later, the door opened again, and Licht found a black towel and handed it over. Don't move. The coldness wrapping around her made her shrink slightly. So cold. He had soaked the towel in cold water. Her eyes widened again, staring at him. But just like before, an indescribable feeling welled up in Luciana's heart. He is so gentle to me, making it unforgettable. Since that apology, his attitude had changed. But the longer Licht held the towel, the more embarrassed she felt. Why is he doing this? I'm like a baby. I can't stand it anymore. She quickly raised her hand, took a deep breath, and shouted, I'll do it myself. However, before that, he had already taken back the towel. In Onid, the bleeding has stopped. Luciana's movements immediately became awkward. Oh, right? When did he stand so far away? She shyly returned to her wandering thoughts. Every time he does that, I temporarily forget reality. Lick's sharp words still echoed in her mind. I hope the young lady doesn't harbor any useless misunderstandings. This kindness is just the effect of the brand. Therefore, Luciana couldn't help but draw a line. This is also because of the brand, right? His face went blank with surprise. And she spoke, what? Don't worry. Her elegant figure glided past him. I still remember what the Duke said. Don't misunderstand. The two of them were in the same space, but their hearts were not intertwined. Now I somewhat understand why you told me not to misunderstand. Luciana firmly pushed away the budding emotions. Perhaps he is worried that I will misunderstand in a way I shouldn't. She forced herself to constantly remind herself that there are many people in the story trying to get the male lead's attention. So Lick's current behavior is the same, that let's live together until the end of our lives. Duke, you must be afraid that I'll start clinging to you. Luciana couldn't let herself get into muddy waters. But I don't want to cling to you. Give me the handkerchief. The handkerchief is mine. I will wash it and return it to you. He held up the handkerchief, pointing to the pattern on it. No need. This is obviously a man's handkerchief. His sharp voice startled her. Or does the young lady intend to wash it with those hands? At this moment, Luciana finally considered the consequences. I didn't mean that. Why would a young lady bring back a man's handkerchief? I didn't think that far ahead. Therefore, she didn't pursue it further and bid farewell. All right, then I'm going home. The hand she placed on her chest tightened slightly. Decision made. As Luciana left, Lick's expression also became gloomy. The handkerchief he used to wipe her nosebleed was clenched in his hand. Her gentle words brushed past like a breeze. I still remember what the Duke said. At this moment, he truly felt remorse and regret. Don't misunderstand. What on earth did I say to her? A mocking voice suddenly echoed in his mind. Unbelievably pathetic. Do you also want to live as pathetically as your father? Lick tried to resist those curses. No, I am fine now, I want. Another self enveloped him, tempting him. But you have already fallen in love with her. Before, you would immediately throw away anything that had her traces on it. He forced himself to stare blankly. And now, look at yourself. No matter how he tried to close his eyes, cover his ears, and deny it, he was ultimately a descendant of this family. After a while, Lick strolled in the greenhouse. Has it been this long? The blooming flowers made his heart as gentle as water. Seeing the blooming flowers reminded him of that woman. As the days passed, his anticipation grew day by day. The last time he saw her was a week ago. He would be able to see her again tomorrow. Suddenly, a sweet voice sounded from behind him. Duke. Lick paused slightly and looked at the uninvited guest. Duke Cassio, her signature blonde hair and full lips parted slightly. Long time no see, isn't it? Since I last saw the Duke. Deborah walked over holding an umbrella, smiling as brightly as a flower. How have you been? This is the novel's heroine. I often visit the residence, but everyone says you are not in. Seeing her, he frowned slightly. Miss Madney, I forgot. There was no particular emotion in his voice. Godwin said you came to see me. I told you not to get close to me, miss. Did you forget? Deborah's expression immediately became sad and apologetic. If I offended you, please forgive me. She held the umbrella gently. It's just that I was so happy to see the Duke. Did something unpleasant happen today? The sense of distance between them became very clear. Somehow, I feel he is colder than before. Her gaze did not waver, but became firm instead. Even so, I must say it. Mustering up courage, a sweet and stuttering voice echoed amidst the scent of flowers. Duke. Deborah's fair cheeks flushed red. The spring festival is coming soon. Would you be willing to be my partner? However, the answer was Lick's icy voice. Not worth my answer. Her face immediately turned gloomy, and her eyes filled with tears like a puppy. Why? She boldly guessed the reason for his refusal. Do you already have a partner? He frowned, expressing annoyance at her concern. Enough. Deborah blushed immediately, flustered and apologizing quickly. I wasted your time, Duke. Unable to stay any longer, she turned quickly. I'll take my leave first. Did I say something wrong? Suddenly, a strange thought rose in her mind. Or rather, her beautiful and exquisite face wavered because of that thought. He really has another woman. Deborah clutched the umbrella tightly, uttering a soft whisper. Then she turned to look at the person in front of her and called out softly, "Duke." Hearing no answer made her a little sad. Her heavy eyes silently thought. He walked away without looking back. Licht was now in his room when suddenly someone announced, "Duke, you have an invitation." Seeing no reaction from him, the butler hurriedly said, "Then I wish you a good rest." Licht began to ponder, his expression carrying a trace of sadness. An invitation to the spring festival. Finally, the spring festival arrived. The weather was fine, and in the magnificent castle, a royal gala was held every spring to select the most beautiful woman. The image of a veiled girl smiling gently, known as the spring goddess. Handsome men and beautiful women held hands. As usual, most nobles would attend this festival to find a marriage partner or enjoy a sweet time with their fiancé/fiancée. At that party, they danced to romantic music. Someone's hand held a party invitation. In other words, the spring festival was a love gala that unmarried nobles dreamed of. The invitation ended with the second princess's signature. That person's thoughts emerged. This year's host is the second princess, if it's the second princess. Adelia smiled slyly and said, "Duke Cassio, there are rumors about you recently." She sat smugly on the throne, with obvious schadenfreude on her face, and continued, "You really are impotent." Recalling those words, Licht was secretly displeased. Isn't she just someone who doesn't care about cheap gossip? The text in the letter continued. The princess hopes that the Duke can attend. A look of melancholy appeared in Licht's eyes as he thought. Someone who loves watching drama, like her, must really want me to go. Thinking of this, he froze for a few seconds. A moment later, he slammed the invitation on the table, thinking wearily. Except for the first year, why should I attend? Licht stood up quickly and took off his coat, still wondering. This year's event has nothing to do with me either. Subconsciously, he glanced to the side without leaving a trace. But then he looked straight at the starry sky outside the window, thinking, she's coming soon. At this moment, the clock struck 11 in the evening. A clear voice said, "Hello, Duke." From out of nowhere, Luciana appeared like a fairy, holding a red box in her hand, and asked, "Are you all right?" Seeing her gentle appearance, Licht was stunned for a moment, secretly thinking, feeling shy. I've never seen this side of her before. Then he quickly answered, "And you, miss? Are you all right too?" Luciana smiled happily. "Yes, I'm fine." Licht walked over quickly to take the box. "Give me the box." She answered gently, "Thank you." At the same time, he inadvertently smelled the scent of Luciana's hair and was a little surprised. Then she brushed past him. Licht felt elated, thinking, the scent of soap is different from usual. Then, unable to control himself, he blurted out, "That smell." Having walked not far, Luciana heard the Duke say something, turned around in confusion, and made a sound. Licht's face suddenly flushed red. His eyes widened in confusion, thinking, I accidentally blurted it out. The next second, he quickly closed his eyes to regain his composure and answered, "No, nothing." Hearing that cold answer, Luciana had 1,000 thoughts, her expression becoming flustered, secretly worrying. Is there something wrong with the smell? Does he think it smells bad? Then she raised her hand and sniffed, checking. I just took a bath. Afterward, she comforted herself. I smell pretty good. The letters were spread out on the table. Luciana flipped through them and confirmed. The content conveyed is a bit different. Licht heard this and answered, "Understood. If anything else is needed, tell me privately." As soon as he finished speaking, she was ecstatic inside. "It seems I can go home early today." But on the surface, she remained calm and said, "Yes." Duke. Suddenly, Luciana's attention was attracted by the letter in front of Licht. That invitation was a letter with an exquisite red envelope. Tom went back to a few days ago. After opening the invitation and reading the content, Mary asked eagerly, "Miss, you received an invitation to the spring festival. You will attend, right?" Seeing no reaction from Luciana, Mary continued to ask anxiously, "Miss, you received an invitation to the spring festival. You will attend, right?" Hearing this, she hesitated, not knowing how to answer. Catching Luciana's gaze, Licht quickly asked, "It seems the young lady also received an invitation. Will you attend the spring festival?" Being asked so suddenly, she was a little flustered and answered, "I decided to attend." The next second, Luciana closed her eyes tightly, comforting herself in her heart. "Although I don't like it, I still have to go. I have no reason to refuse the second princess's wish." This made Licht look at her with some confusion. Then his eyes widened as if realizing something, silently exclaiming, "She's going to attend the spring festival." Hearing this, Licht froze, falling into gloomy thoughts. If it's the spring festival, she will be paired with another man. The image of Luciana dancing happily with a man emerged clearly. Just thinking about it made Licht furious. He clenched his fists and cursed in a low voice. Damn it. Just imagining her with another man makes me angry. A moment later, he told himself, I can't stop her from attending the celebration. Thinking this, Licht awkwardly proposed, how about the young lady attends the celebration with me? Hearing this, Luciana opened her eyes wide in surprise and stammered. What? Her mind was in chaos. What did he say? We attend the spring festival together? Luciana's face sank, unable to believe her ears, looking straight at him. Suddenly, Luciana felt confused in her mind, wondering, is he sober? If we become partners, how will everyone react? Luciana imagined herself walking past everyone holding the Duke's arm, hearing buzzing whispers. What's going on? When did they become so close? Did something happen at the year-end party? By then, she could only close her eyes and force a smile, thinking, I don't even need to look to know. Breaking free from her imagination, Luciana held her head to sober herself up. I don't even need to look to know. In the original story, he invited the heroine, not me. She looked down at her wrist, thinking, it's because of the brand. In Luciana's mind, she briefly thought of Deborah pretending to be flustered in front of Licht, thinking, as soon as Deborah opens her mouth, Licht will willingly capture a budding romance at a party he's not interested in. Then, the image of Licht's branded wrist intertwined with that woman's hand, while her own hands were wrapped in chains, appeared. Luciana thought helplessly, just because of this brand, everything has been overturned. At this moment, the whole room fell into a suffocating silence. Then, Luciana suddenly remembered his gentleness towards her, secretly pondering. That strange feeling when he helped wipe my nosebleed, inviting me to be his partner. Is this also the result of the brand? But the next second, Luciana dismissed the thought herself, remembering the cold attitude Licht was supposed to have. Damn it, pretend you didn't hear anything. Don't misunderstand, I was just talking nonsense. She crossed her arms and pouted, thinking, usually, he would be the one saying such things. Then, Luciana's mind was filled with question marks. Confused. Why is he like this today? So gentle. Meanwhile, Licht's face flushed red, and he turned away. Luciana put on a flustered expression, daring not to look directly at him, scratching her neck. Anyway, I must refuse. Hearing this, Licht was disappointed and asked, why? Then, looking in from outside the window, one could only see Luciana explaining gently to Licht, Duke, you and I are strangers outside. If we suddenly attend the celebration as each other's partners. She recalled the scenes of their anxious secret meetings in the silent night and continued, we have always been careful not to be discovered. Wouldn't those efforts go to waste? Licht was stunned by her calm explanation, silently exclaiming, damn, I couldn't control myself, so I blurted out unreasonable words. Luciana then smiled innocently and said, even if not for this reason, I can only refuse you. Licht asked in confusion, what do you mean? Luciana's lips curved slightly into a smile. That is because. Then she smiled brightly and frankly. I already have someone who agreed to attend with me. As soon as she finished speaking, Licht's eyes widened in surprise, and he silently exclaimed in his mind, she already has a partner. He imagined Luciana looking happily at a mysterious young man in front of her, thinking, who on earth is that person? Licht revealed a displeased expression, looking down with dull eyes. Luciana quickly noticed his attitude and began to feel uncomfortable inside. Why is he frowning again? I really don't understand him. Sensing the tense atmosphere, Luciana stood up gently, thinking, in this situation, it's best to escape quickly. Then she said tactfully, I really appreciate the Duke's offer, but if we attend together, I think things won't be that easy. Luciana didn't forget to pick up the bracelet and said, well then, I'm going home now. The next second, he quickly reached out his hand to stop her. Wait. But unfortunately, Luciana left quickly. He could only extend his hand and sigh in disappointment. Then he lowered his hand, clenching it tightly into a fist, wondering who her partner actually was. Licht constantly imagined intimate scenes, hands touching hands. As partners, they would have to dance together next. He imagined them dancing passionately to the music, spending a long time together like that. The face of Luciana, blushing shyly and looking at that man, suddenly emerged. This made Licht unable to bear it. His anger burned, and he gritted his teeth, thinking secretly, what if they fall in love? But he quickly regained his composure, comforting himself, no, calm down first. One thing is certain, she will attend the spring festival. Licht looked at the invitation on the table, thinking worriedly, and to attend the spring festival, one needs a partner. The next morning, under the mild weather, a voice echoed in the castle. "Miss Luciana, please wake up." She was still immersed in her sleep, murmuring, "5 more minutes." Mary couldn't wait any longer and ran over to lift her quilt. "You'll be late if this continues." Luciana bargained with sleepy eyes. "Just a little while." Mary suddenly turned around, opened all the curtains, and said, "Please wake up and wash your face, Mississippi." At this moment, Luciana finally sat up and looked over there. Outside the window was a beautiful sky, with white clouds floating gracefully. Mary's excited voice rang out, "Finally, your season has arrived, miss." Luciana was still half asleep and speechless, but felt confused inside, thinking, Mary is unusually energetic today. After getting up, Luciana held a towel and looked at Mary, asking, "What do you mean by my season has arrived?" The girl's radiant eyes looked out the window as she answered, "This time, you must become the spring goddess." Then she asked eagerly, "Because of your studies, you didn't attend the spring festival in previous years, right?" She was stunned by this question. Then, Mary stood in front of the dressing table, putting on a mysterious look. "Then, please sit here, Mississippi. There are still many steps to prepare." Luciana had no choice but to obey obediently, thinking, "My plan to spend the day leisurely is completely ruined." Then Mary enthusiastically applied blush and lipstick for Luciana. At this moment, she smiled faintly, thinking with satisfaction, "She doesn't need to try so hard to make me beautiful." The image of the beautiful Deborah holding a bouquet appeared. Luciana continued her thoughts, because ultimately, the position of the spring goddess is already taken. Thinking of this, she suddenly remembered, "Wait, so Deborah will also attend the spring festival? Who will she go with?" Luciana imagined her smiling and leaning on a man's shoulder. The next second, she imagined the person beside Deborah was Licht and silently exclaimed, "Licht said he wouldn't come, so who would it be?" Suddenly, Mary's call pulled her back from her thoughts. "Miss Luciana," Mary said hesitantly, "look in the mirror." The mirror reflected an incredibly beautiful and radiant Luciana. Mary couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh my God, you are so beautiful that I want to go blind." Hearing these exaggerated compliments, Luciana reminded her awkwardly, "Mary, what if someone hears that?" Hearing this, the girl asked in panic, "What do you mean?" Then Mary giggled, her eyes sparkling. "I'm sure everyone thinks the same as me. Let me check your outfit one last time." At this moment outside the door, Luciana's cousin Louis was already waiting. Luciana walked down the steps quickly and asked, "You've been waiting here already?" Hearing her call, he turned around, crossed his arms, and asked, "You said you were only attending for politeness, but you dressed up so gorgeously." Luciana didn't rush to answer, but ran over happily and said, "Sorry, did you wait long?" Louis narrowed his eyes halfway, putting on an affected expression, "Not too long." Luciana poked his arm and teased, "Hey, are you taller than last time?" Not to be outdone, he retorted, "It's you who got shorter." Luciana just shouted annoyedly, "Louis." The next second, Louis resumed his serious demeanor, extended his hand, and said respectfully, "Just kidding, let's go. Miss Leslie with the beauty of a lily of the valley." Hearing this, she froze for 5 seconds, her face sank, and she thought helplessly, "You really are." When Luciana gave her hand to Louis, she looked at his innocent expression, thinking, he will be an adult in a few months. Then she sighed and continued thinking, but he's still like a child. At this moment, the two were already sitting in the carriage. Louis spoke up, "Sister." He sat with his arms crossed, continuing to look at his sister, and asked, "Will you pay me for this job as you said?" Luciana interrupted him quickly, "I'll send it to you this week, so say less." Hearing this, Louis revealed an excited and fawning expression. As expected, "You are the best." Speechless at her brother's words, Luciana could only force a smile, looking at Louis and thinking happily, "This kid is really money-obsessed. Even so, thanks to him, I can attend the celebration." A moment later, he asked seriously and directly, "But sister, looking at your expression, you don't seem very interested in the celebration. Why do you insist on attending and even spending money?" Luciana didn't answer immediately, but in her mind, she was imagining the nobles discussing her. "Miss Leslie isn't coming again this year. What's wrong with her?" She thought worriedly. "Because I can't ignore my reputation in high society, I am forced to attend at least once. But the person who invited me to be his partner is beyond my ability to handle. An image of a man inviting her to dance also appeared. Miss as beautiful as a flower. Would you like to dance with me? Then she answered awkwardly, I have been in seclusion for a long time, since my birthday. Now it is time for me to show my face. The carriage continued to move forward. Louis didn't think too much about it. Why does everyone make their lives so complicated? Why care about what others say? Luciana looked at him in confusion and said, You are the weird one. Finally, they arrived. The surroundings were unusually quiet. Luciana looked up in surprise and inhaled gently. Wow. Seeing his sister's excited expression, Louis asked, Is this your first time attending the spring festival? Luciana answered while looking around. Yes, because of studying at the academy, I didn't have time. Suddenly, she parted her lips and said, But Louis. Then she squeezed out a forced smile and said, There are too many people here. At this moment, the area was crowded with attendees. The next second, both of them froze. Louis froze inside. Do we have to stay in this crowded place for hours? Louis seized the opportunity and teased his sister smugly. No matter how I look at it, I feel the salary isn't enough. We should calculate a bit more. Luciana was furious and scolded. You shameless guy. Seeing her like this, Louis got even more excited and continued to tease her. How can you say that? She pounded him in exasperation. Suddenly, a woman opposite them covered her mouth and gasped in surprise. Oh my God, look over there, it's Duke Cassio. Luciana also hurriedly looked over and cried out in surprise. What? Licht is here? At this moment, he was dressed in royal formal wear, looking incredibly handsome. Luciana was secretly surprised he actually came. She continued to lean in to look at his cold face, confirming to herself, very handsome. No wonder the novel described him as having rare beauty. Thinking of this, she suddenly remembered something, looked around, and thought, wait, then where is his partner? Her gaze landed on a girl with platinum blonde hair, thinking, it's that person over there. It turned out to be Yvonne. Things seemed a bit unnatural between the two. Luciana exclaimed in surprise, the vice commander of the Collins Knights? In an instant, a cloud of suspicion rose in Luciana's heart. Wait, he didn't come with Deborah. Licht only came because of Deborah's invitation. Otherwise, there was no reason. Then why would he attend? Unable to come up with an answer after thinking for a long time, Luciana was full of questions and continued to ponder, and he actually has a partner. Seeing her confused expression, Louis nudged her and called out, Sister. Luciana snapped back from the chaos in her mind and quickly asked, Are you trying to trick me again? Suddenly, her face turned pale, and she cried out in surprise. What? At this moment, blocking Luciana was Licht's body, obstructing her view. Why is he so close? Then she looked up, staring directly into his eyes, her heart in a panic. He is right in front of me. In front of me. The next second, her face showed obvious confusion at this scene, and she thought worriedly, does he know how many eyes are staring at him? He's crazy. At this time, everyone was staring intently at Licht, whispering. After a moment of silence, Luciana managed to squeeze out a smile, telling herself, calm down, handle this. Then she spoke, It is a pleasure to meet you. Saying that, she bowed respectfully and introduced herself. I'm the daughter of Marquis Leslie, Luciana Leslie. Louis also quickly followed suit and bowed. I'm the second son of Duke Dalton, Louis Dalton. Suddenly, he became gloomy, his face showing obvious displeasure, and he said coldly, Licht Cassio. Licht stared directly at Louis with a sharp gaze, which left both of them stunned in confusion. Actually, Luciana was very puzzled. He should be ignoring me as if I don't exist, but in reality, Licht keeps staring at me. Instead, why does he look so awkward now? Although she smiled friendly on the surface, a storm was raging in her heart. Wait, is he trying to make things difficult for me? This kind of pressure means he wants to end this quickly. Was I too stupid before? After staring boredly for a long time, Licht finally spoke. You said Duke Dalton? Louis answered in confusion. Yes, your grace, I am Louis. Hearing this, Licht continued to press. Dalton is famous for the textile industry, right? Although confused, Louis had to answer, yes, that's right, especially the quality of the silk. He thought confusedly, what is going on? Facing Licht's stern face, Louis screamed internally, secretly complaining. He sounds polite, but why is he treating me like this? Facing his electrifying gaze, he couldn't stop panicking. He looks like he's going to hit someone. Suddenly, Luciana interrupted the oppressive atmosphere. Thank you for your praise, your grace. Louis exclaimed in his heart, Sister. Then Luciana smiled brightly. placed her hand on her chest, and introduced proudly, "The Duke Dalton family is my mother's maiden home." As soon as she finished speaking, Licht froze and exclaimed, "Wait, what?" Luciana ignored it and continued pointing at Louis. "Louis is my cousin." He was surprised again. "What? Cousin?" At this moment, Licht remembered the list of people he had envisioned and thought awkwardly, if her partner is her cousin, then I really worried for nothing. At the same time, the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up, thinking smugly, this means they are not in a romantic relationship. Licht just stood there, ignoring everything happening around him, stroking his chin. At this moment, everyone was staring intently into his eyes. Luciana was extremely confused, thinking to herself, why is Licht just standing there doing nothing? He's even smiling. Everyone is still watching us. Someone break this situation. Just then, Deborah spoke up, "Oh, Your Grace." Instantly, everyone's attention shifted to the source of the voice. Deborah, wearing a gorgeous yellow dress, ran over with a bright smile and asked, "Are you all right?" It's been a long time. Before she could finish her sentence, she tripped over her dress and fell forward, but luckily, an arm wrapped around her waist and caught her. Oh my! Her face flushed red, and she thought happily, "Did the Duke catch me?" Then she quickly said excitedly, "Thank you." But unfortunately, the person who caught Deborah was Yvonne. She replied, "You're welcome." Deborah felt a bit disappointed, thinking, it's not the Duke. Is she Licht's lover? She said awkwardly, "I don't think I've ever seen you before." Yvonne then introduced herself frankly, "I am Yvonne Roan, Vice Commander of the Collins Knights. At the Commander's request, I came as a partner." Hearing this, Deborah became happy again, her face glowing, and exclaimed, "So that's it. No wonder I thought your posture was very upright." Then they continued to talk. Deborah kept praising her. "You look really great." Yvonne replied modestly, "You flatter me." Luciana and Louis were observing from the side, whispering, "The atmosphere is gradually becoming pleasant." Without any extra movement, she pulled her cousin's hand away from that place, her face gloomy, a perfect opportunity to slip away. Louis was suddenly pulled and asked in confusion, Hey, wait a minute, sister. Is it okay for us to leave without saying anything?" Hearing this, Luciana showed a satisfied expression, imagining those standing in the spotlight, and said, "Of course, supporting characters like us shouldn't get involved with the main characters. Let them shine there." Although she spoke boldly, she thought to herself, even so, it's still quite surprising. I didn't expect Deborah to appear so suddenly. Luciana thought of the image of the Duke and Deborah walking side by side. They're the protagonists who should have attended together. Then she looked at the young man standing beside her, and Yvonne standing beside Licht, and a doubt arose in her heart. But seeing them with different partners, it feels awkward if this continues. For some reason, I feel a bit strange inside. Adelia was loudly speaking her thoughts to everyone. I am very happy to see everyone at this beautiful spring festival. Thank you all. This ball will be wonderful. So now, without further ado, let's enter the main hall of the concert hall. The music started, and couples began to dance. At this moment, Deborah was standing next to the Duke, looking at the hall and sighing, "Everyone is dancing so beautifully." She secretly made a wish, "If only I could with." Thinking of this, she looked up and proposed, "Duke, Your Grace, would you like to?" But Licht didn't pay attention, a strange expression of displeasure on his face, as if remembering something. Deborah's eyes sparkled, thinking, I'm talking to myself again. She looked carefully at Licht's face, realizing to herself, but why does the Duke look so annoyed? On the other side, Luciana was dancing with Louis when he suddenly hesitated and spoke, "Sister," about the Duke. She waited confusedly for the next sentence. Then Louis said frankly, "I think he likes you, sister." As soon as she heard this, Luciana jumped. What? Louis looked at his sister's overreaction in confusion. Does it sound that insulting? Luciana turned her head awkwardly and said, "No, what nonsense are you talking about?" Louis remembered Licht's baseless interrogation of him and inferred, when he suddenly asked me, I was wondering why he would do that. Unknowingly, his face darkened, sweat pouring down, and he continued hesitantly, "For some reason, I feel the Duke's interest in our family is negative." While the two were still in a dancing pose, Luciana suddenly gasped, and Louis quickly comforted himself. I hope it's just my imagination. But even so, he still felt a chill down his spine because Licht's gaze never left him. He's been staring at me the whole time. Hearing this, she also subconsciously leaned out to look. Then their eyes met unexpectedly, causing Licht's cheeks to flush crimson. He immediately covered his face with his hand and turned away. Luciana suddenly realized he knows everyone is watching. She continued to pretend to dance, but wondered to herself, why is he still like that? It's too obvious. Luciana showed a timid expression, telling herself, he couldn't possibly hate me, right? Louis turned pale and screamed internally, Sister, can't you feel that gaze? To Luciana, Lick's attitude was nothing unusual. He usually doesn't have a gentle expression. He's just like that. Meanwhile, her cousin was about to cry, wondering, did I greet him too late, or did I say something wrong? She felt guilty and thought, it's not your fault, sorry, Louis. After the dance, everyone concluded the celebration with a warm tea party. After everyone was seated, someone approached, and Haley, holding a white cat, greeted cheerfully, long time no see, everyone. Seeing her, everyone exclaimed happily. Miss Haley. Another lady saw her and asked curiously, oh, miss, you brought a cat? Haley replied kindly. The second princess said pets like cats could attend, so I brought her. Sitting nearby, Luciana showed an interested expression, her eyes sparkling, thinking, I haven't seen a cat in a long time. She stared intently at the cat, marveling to herself, its tongue is so small. Another person continued to ask, how old is Elise? Haley answered honestly, about 1.5 years. I just brought it home. Meanwhile, Luciana looked closer and closer, exclaiming internally, its tongue is so small. But the cat was not friendly at all. It bared its teeth and let out a low growl. Luciana thought in confusion, but I feel like it doesn't like me. Then she comforted herself. All right, I'll just drink tea then. But the teacup was already empty, and the cat's fur was still standing on end, growling. 126 Luciana then turned to call the waiter for a refill, over here. But before she could finish, the cat suddenly lunged at her. In an instant, only screams and the sound of spilled syrup were heard. At this moment, her face and hand were scratched by its claws. Everyone exclaimed in shock, oh my God. Miss Leslie, are you all right? Haley's face immediately showed obvious panic, and she quickly picked up the cat. Oh no, what should I do? There's a scratch on Mrs. face. I'm really sorry. It's usually very gentle. I am really very sorry. Mississippi Luciana appeared calm at this moment. She put her hand to her scratched face, thinking the wound stings a bit. But then she looked at the teary-eyed Miss Haley, wondering slightly, this isn't something worth crying over like this. Then Luciana thought, it's best not to make a big deal out of it. Thinking of this, she stood up, turned to comfort Haley. I'm fine, just a small scratch on the skin. But she felt very guilty and quickly said, I'm really sorry. I will buy you a new pair of gloves. Miss Luciana politely declined. Don't worry, I have spare gloves here. As soon as she finished speaking, she quickly turned and left. Haley was speechless with guilt, watching her go. But after walking for a while, Luciana looked at her hand and thought, it's starting to hurt more. Then she recalled the cat's aggression, thinking, cat scratches are worse than I thought. She was lost in thought and accidentally bumped into someone. Luciana quickly looked up and said, I'm sorry. The person she bumped into was none other than Licht. He looked down in surprise and made a sound. Suddenly, Licht flew into a rage, touching her face and asking, where did this wound come from? Luciana was obviously embarrassed, thinking confusedly, what is going on? The two were face to face, very close. Luciana panicked, thinking, what are you doing? Everyone will see us. She subconsciously remembered the feeling of Licht's hand touching her cheek, realizing there's no other way. I have to make him let go. He also realized something at this moment and froze. Licht noticed her scratched hand, grabbed it, and exclaimed, your hand is injured too. Which idiot did this? That subconscious action made Luciana confused again, thinking he's making a fuss over a small scratch. He looked at her hand without hesitation and said gently, this mark looks like it was made by an animal. If Miss isn't careful, it might leave a scar. Luciana awkwardly pulled her hand back, showing an uncomfortable expression, thinking this is too weird. Then she said frankly, we are standing too close right now. This sentence made Licht feel somewhat disappointed instantly. Then, the next second he froze for a moment, then turned abruptly and said, it's my fault, I'll leave now. But he still didn't forget to instruct worriedly. Even so, remember to apply medicine to the wound. Luciana stared blankly at his retreating back, wondering to herself, what was that situation just now? After a while, Luciana also returned to the path. She secretly hid behind a bush, thinking, Licht doesn't seem to be here, right? Her face showed a nervous expression, because he's always so fickle. I'd better avoid him. Just as she finished thinking, she quickly ran out from behind the bush confidently, thinking smugly, looking around, he's probably not nearby. I can finally walk freely. Suddenly, a hand reached out from behind, then plucked a leaf from her hat, and he asked, long time no see. Luciana also answered subconsciously yes. This man was Dimitri. Holding the leaf, he smiled kindly and said, "I haven't seen Miss since the New Year's ball." Then he took a step forward, held her hand, and said, "Miss disappeared from high society. I thought you had forgotten me." Dimitri immediately planted a kiss on Luciana's hand without any extra movement. "So Miss still remembers me." At this moment, Luciana felt somewhat nauseous, thinking, how could I forget your casual touches at the last ball? Then in her mind, she recalled his previous casual touches, him bragging incessantly and secretly criticized, his attitude towards women is truly rude. Then she quickly pulled her hand back in disgust. Dimitri still brazenly probed, "I saw Miss come with a young master of the Dalton family. He is your cousin, isn't he?" Without waiting for Luciana to answer, he showed a cunning expression, thinking, this means she has no man. The situation is finally in my favor. Then he smiled and asked, "It seems Miss didn't like the gift I sent." Dimitri reached out to touch her ear again like a playboy. While chattering, "I specially had that gem made into a pair of earrings to give to Mississippi." At this time, Luciana's patience reached its limit. She immediately slapped his hand away and shouted, "What exactly do you want to do?" Dimitri was embarrassed and forced a smile, thinking, no matter how prickly she acts, she's just a woman after all. Then he continued, "I mean, those earrings signify Rosefina's spring." As soon as he finished speaking, Luciana's face showed obvious annoyance. She remembered those earrings, that pink diamond. "I threw it into the storage room long ago." Then she put on a haughty expression and said bluntly, "That really doesn't suit me at all." He didn't get angry, but instead expressed sympathy. "I understand. A woman's taste is quite particular after all." The next second, Dimitri proposed seriously, "Fate has brought us together again. Why don't we dance a waltz together?" Luciana could only burn with rage inside. "He counters me just like that." She didn't give him any chance and refused frankly, "No, I don't want to." Hearing this, a trace of disappointment flashed in Dimitri's eyes, but then he returned to a cheerful expression and said, "Don't be like this. Today is a perfect opportunity." In an instant, Dimitri suddenly approached, grabbed her waist abruptly, and said brazenly, "Let's finish our conversation from last time." Luciana thought in horror, "He's not listening to me at all." Then she quickly turned to see if anyone was watching and said, "Excuse me." Fortunately, at this moment, the nobles were busy talking, and she sighed in relief. No one noticed. Dimitri's arm was still tightly gripping Luciana's waist, making her extremely uncomfortable. He's playing the same trick as at the New Year's ball, and now he's doing it again. Her face began to darken, her hands clenched tight, trembling slightly. "I can't take it anymore. He definitely treats other ladies like this too." Just as this thought flashed by, he was lying flat on the grass, not understanding what had happened yet. Luciana's hands were still clenched into fists, and she thought confusedly, "I haven't done anything yet." A moment later, her expression changed, and she said smugly, "Well, whoever it is, thank you." Then she looked away. The person who appeared in front of her was licked, causing her to cry out in surprise. Licked. After a while, everyone finally noticed Dimitri and shouted, "Oh my God, someone fainted." They began to gather around, asking curiously, "Who fell?" This made Luciana freeze, her mind in chaos. "Oh no, I've attracted everyone's attention." Finally, one of them recognized Licked and exclaimed, "Duke Cassio?" Luciana was not spared either, and was soon named. "Isn't that Miss Leslie?" She could only think confusedly, "I don't know what to do anymore." The royal guards immediately ran over and asked anxiously what happened here. Licht showed a disgusted expression and replied calmly, "A man was harassing someone who had already rejected him." One of the three guards glanced at Luciana and asked in confusion, "What do you mean by harassment?" Hearing this, Licht couldn't help but put on a stern expression, gritting his teeth and asking, "Does the lady really need to explain it that clearly?" That fierce pressure scared all three of them into a cold sweat, answering, "No, your grace." Then, the brown-haired man looked awkwardly at Dimitri, scratched his head, and asked, "Then your grace, do you mean? You knocked this person out?" Before he could hear the answer, everyone had already started gossiping. "Oh my God, so Duke Cassio really stepped in to help Miss Leslie." The news reached Adelia, who hurried over and asked, "What is going on?" As soon as she appeared, everyone shouted at the same time, "Greetings, Your Highness." The second princess, she asked bluntly, report. Another person stammered, "It's like this. This young man, he behaved rudely towards Miss Leslie, and it seems Duke Cassio personally stopped him." Hearing this, Adelia frowned, her face showing obvious displeasure. 137. Then she quickly turned to question Luciana. Miss Leslie, is this true? She recounted truthfully. Yes, Your Highness. You try to force me to dance with him. Hearing this, Adelia's eyes suddenly flashed cunningly, and she muttered to herself. Quite surprising. She noticed Lick's expression and wondered secretly. Duke Cassio, known for being cold to all ladies, was actually the one who helped the lady. All the witnesses present were still buzzing. Duke Cassio helped her? Unbelievable. Deborah, who had been standing silently, finally spoke. Duke Cassio. Sharp-eyed Luciana recognized her in the crowd, thinking in panic, Deborah, she's nearby. Feeling things getting more out of control, she lowered her head, her heart full of worry. She definitely thinks all this is strange too. Deborah is starting to suspect the relationship between me and Licht. Unintentionally, Luciana's expression was noticed by Adelia, who stared intently. The next second, she quickly deduced. Why is the lady's expression so serious? Could it be that she really has something with Duke Cassio? As if thinking of a scheme, she was secretly excited. How interesting. But I must maintain the dignity of a princess first. Then she pretended to be calm and said, I don't think this person can do anything anymore. As soon as she finished speaking, Adelia postured by holding Luciana's hand, bowing and saying, as the host of the party, I apologize for this man's rude behavior. Luciana also curtsied gently and replied, You don't have to do this. Your Highness, please don't be too troubled. After speaking, Adelia quickly excused herself. I am grateful the lady says so. So now, everyone, let's return to the main hall. Meanwhile, Louis suddenly ran over, panting, calling out, Sister. Then he showed an apologetic expression and said, I heard what happened. I'm sorry if I had been there. Luciana quickly comforted him. I'm fine. Then she also left with everyone. Let's go too. The ceremony is about to start. Louis paused awkwardly, then glanced at Licht. Seeing him standing quietly in the soft spring sunlight, Louis breathed a sigh of relief, thinking, Duke Cassio really saved my sister. At this moment, the most important part of the party officially began. Adelia stood on high and announced solemnly, now announcing the candidates for this year's Goddess of Spring. Lily Nasha, Natalia Hone, Deborah Madnay. Luciana listened attentively, her face full of anticipation, thinking, of course Deborah will be chosen. The rest is just selecting the Goddess of Spring. Suddenly, Adelia shouted a name, and Luciana Leslie. Hearing this, she gasped in shock. What? Then she proposed, candidates who have been selected, please step forward. Meanwhile, Louis turned happily to tease his sister. My sister is a candidate. Luciana was completely confused because I was too focused on Deborah being the protagonist. I never thought I would be selected. Louis put on a displeased expression and continued to tease. There really are a lot of men with no taste. As soon as he finished speaking, Luciana elbowed him, then quickly told herself, well, at least there are other candidates. Coincidentally, she was arranged to be next to Deborah. Although she forced a smile on the surface, she was screaming inside. What is this situation? Why am I standing here? Thinking of that girl's gentle face, Luciana froze, wondering, and right next to Deborah? Is this some kind of rule? Deborah glanced at Luciana at this time and said, Hello, Miss Leslie. I don't think we've ever spoken. She smiled and replied, Yes, that's right. Noticing Luciana's slightly uneasy attitude, she asked, Is Miss nervous? You look a bit tense. Luciana also asked back innocently, Can Miss see it that clearly? She replied, Yes, a little bit. Then Deborah admitted awkwardly, But I am just as nervous as Mississippi. Seeing that smile, Luciana's heart skipped a beat, thinking emotionally, her beautiful, cute, and charming appearance is no joke. But then she lowered her eyes, worrying secretly. The more she shines, the more uneasy I feel. The image of Licht kissing her neck surfaced, making her regret, if only that night hadn't happened. The next second, she spoke to comfort. Miss, you don't have to worry. The other girl looked over in confusion. Luciana made up her mind in her heart, even if the initial starting point was wrong, even if the male lead is a bit off track. Then, turning to Deborah, she said confidently, Everything will be fine. I have a feeling that this year's Goddess of Spring will be you. Mississippi hearing this, Deborah's expression was somewhat confused. After a period of deliberation, the results came out. Everyone listened nervously. This year's Goddess of Spring is... Finally, the name was announced, Deborah Madnay. This shocked her into disbelief. Seeing this, Luciana thought with satisfaction, "See, things are developing just like the original story." Then she glowed, thinking smugly, "Everything is gradually returning to its track." Under the clear sky, Adelia's steady voice rang out. "With this, I declare the spring festival closed." Then, everyone began to leave one after another. Luciana felt a wave of relief in her heart, thinking, it's finally over. She was exhausted, her face lifeless, thinking, I'm worn out today because of someone. I don't even want to recall it. Her eyes were now lifeless. If I live a quiet life, everyone will gradually forget. Suddenly, someone's faint voice made her open her eyes wide in alertness. Don't you think there's something going on between them? Luciana wondered, are they talking about me? In a passing crowd, Luciana overheard them whispering, they say Duke Cassio helped Miss Leslie, right? Yes, could they be lovers? Then what about Miss Madney? Luciana's face became more tense as she listened. Strangers everywhere are talking about me. But their curiosity didn't stop. Why Miss Leslie? No, it couldn't be this Miss Leslie. As someone's voice fell, everyone gasped and looked over. A familiar voice. Lick stood coldly with his arms crossed, a look of disdain on his face, saying, who said she is worthy of the title of Goddess of Spring? Then he announced shocking news. This year's Spring Festival will be canceled. This left both Luciana and Louis dumbfounded, unable to believe it, thinking, what did I just hear? This might be the most shocking news everyone heard today. Everyone was confused and buzzing. Oh my God, did you hear what the Duke said? The group of gossiping ladies quickly steered the story in another direction. Miss Leslie, wasn't she one of the candidates? Oh, she's the one who made Miss Haley cry. In the face of Deborah's shocked silence, the rumors continued. It's really unexpected. I even thought Duke licked and Miss Madney had something. At this time, she could no longer hold back her tears, thinking heartbrokenly, I thought if I became the Goddess of Spring, the Duke would notice me, but he doesn't want that at all. Then, Deborah turned and walked away in despair. A gossiping woman leaned close to the person next to her and whispered, poor Miss Madney. Yeah, but now everyone in high society knows. All scrutinizing and blaming eyes were cast on Luciana. Miss Madney likes licked. Doesn't Miss Leslie know? The gossip became harsher and harsher, freezing her in place. Unable to do anything but widen her eyes in surprise, don't tell me she knew but still approached the Duke. No, I don't think Miss Leslie is that kind of person. Then why did Miss Haley cry? Oh, suddenly, Louis shook Luciana vigorously, making her startle awake. Hey, Lucy, wake up. Are you okay? Then he asked affectionately, let's move to another place. Can you walk, sister? She answered absent-mindedly, I just want to go home. It was late, under the starry sky. A voice echoed in the castle. Miss, you must be very tired today. Luciana lay on the bed, exhausted, and struggled to answer. Yeah, I stood all day. I don't have any strength left. Mary stood considerately by the bed and asked, do you need me to make the bed for you, miss? She stiffly ordered, just put the lamp on the table. I'll do the rest myself. Seeing her like this, Mary's expression revealed a hint of worry. All right, miss, please rest well. She said softly, thank you. After the maid left, the whole room fell into silence. At this moment, Luciana's cheeks were flushed, her hands clutching the bracelet, telling herself, sleep? No, I still have things to do. Saying that, she got out of bed with a worried look, thinking, today is the day to receive the materials. What a coincidence. Lick's hateful image from the morning kept surfacing in her mind, and he even canceled the goddess title. Even so, Luciana squeezed out a smile, thinking, he wears me out completely every day, giving me no peace even before sleep. Thinking of this, Luciana's face darkened, and she resolutely grabbed the lamp and walked out. And oh, on the contrary, this is a good thing. The bright oil lamp illuminated her face, and she mustered all her courage, walking step by step. Because of this opportunity, I can ask him in secret. Luciana shouted loudly without hesitation, Hey, Duke. She crossed her arms and pouted playfully. Lick looked away awkwardly. You're here. He was sweating, gesturing to avoid her gaze. The materials you wanted are over there, miss. Just take them back. Luciana reminded him seriously, more importantly, don't we have something else to talk about? She crossed her arms and leaned forward. Because you did that, Duke, it made me feel very embarrassed, and it's not good for either of us. Lick looked away awkwardly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, Mississippi. He cleared his throat and lowered his voice. I will take full responsibility. Luciana smiled confidently in her heart. That's right. Lick probably did it because he wanted to. She suddenly remembered something, and her face darkened. All of this is because of that brand, but is that really the best way? Luciana thought for a while, then spoke. That was young Master Dimitri. Why did you intervene personally, Duke? Hearing this, Lick trembled all over, sweating that. Memories flooded back. Of course, I am grateful for your help, but there were many people around at the time, risking the spread of false rumors. Lick quickly changed the subject. I have a personal grudge against that young master. Luciana was surprised and suspicious. Personal grudge? How deep is that grudge? She continued to guess in her mind, and he chose that exact moment to use me to create rumors. Revenge like that is simply like sitting on a single log bridge. Luciana immediately let go of her hands and squeezed out a smile. Then suddenly a duel happened. You didn't have to do that at the Spring Festival, Duke. Lick anxiously expressed his thoughts, but it was obvious at the time that you were very uncomfortable, miss. Hearing this, she stared at him, confirming again. What? Lick continued to look away and said, that guy kept harassing you, miss. How could I stand by and watch? He carefully observed her expression. Soon as I saw that guy disrespecting you, miss, my body reacted automatically. Hearing this, Luciana sincerely clasped her hands together and asked, feigning innocence, why would you care if young Master Dimitri disrespects me, Duke? Lick resolutely raised his hand to his chest. I swear, I absolutely didn't do it on purpose, and my words about canceling the Spring Festival were just an unintentional slip. Luciana's face became even more confused. What? Lick sighed deeply and explained, I was standing nearby at the time and heard those rude remarks they casually made about you, Mississippi. He looked straight at her with a sad expression. I got angry because I didn't want to listen anymore, because I truly feel that you are the most beautiful, miss. Hearing this, Luciana's lips suddenly pressed tightly together. Lick took the initiative to approach and comfort her. Most importantly, is your injury any better? She stared blankly, thinking, in these gentle moments, I feel he really... Suddenly, the tattoo on his arm flashed before Luciana's eyes. She flinched and stared at it intently. For a moment, I forgot again. Luciana quickly pulled her hand back and turned away. All of this is because of the brand's influence. Why would the Duke care? Lick stammered, speechless. Of course it's because. Luciana's face darkened, and she turned away. You must know that I am pretending to be your lover, right, Duke? Hearing this, he clicked his tongue in displeasure. Unconsciously. Luciana turned and left in annoyance. That's it for today. I'm going home. I must break the brand as soon as possible. A restaurant owner sighed. I'm really troubled because my eldest son has no intention of getting married at all. Come to think of it, isn't the young master of the Leslie family almost 28, Marquis? The Marquis and Marchioness of Leslie sighed. How can children act completely according to their parents' wishes? That child probably has his own goals. He joked with a laugh. You two must be at ease, not having to worry about your child. Hearing this, both of them were startled, as if about to stand up. What do you mean? The restaurant owner turned around cheerfully and explained, you two don't know anything yet, right? There's a rumor that your daughter is the lover of Duke Cassio. The Marquis and Marchioness of Leslie both gasped. Yes, at Luciana? Wait, who did you just say? He continued loudly. This matter caused a sensation for a long time after the Spring Festival ended. Rumors are usually exaggerated. The restaurant owner gestured happily. But I heard someone saw your daughter with the Duke. Many nobles witnessed it with their own eyes. The Duke Cassio's family. How enviable. The Leslie couple looked at each other blankly. What am I hearing? Then the Marquis turned anxiously and whispered, Honey, what exactly happened this afternoon? Oh, speaking of which, Mrs. Leslie stroked her chin in thought. Before Duke Cassio came to our house. What? Came to our house? She looked over blankly. That he didn't come specifically, but the Duke's carriage stopped for a while. I thought it was strange. He initiated a conversation. Mrs. Leslie recalled that strange scene. It was as if he intended to call for Luciana. The Marquis of Leslie confirmed suspiciously. Something like that happened? Luciana appeared out of nowhere. Sorry, I'm late. The Marquis immediately laughed loudly. Lucy, sit down quickly, child. He immediately asked suspiciously. You look too tired. Did you not sleep well? She squeezed out a smile. Just a lot to do recently. Mrs. Leslie crossed her arms dismissively. She doesn't look like she has a lover at all. Sure enough, it's just gossip. Her determination became firmer. Even so, it's best to confirm. The Marchioness spoke up immediately. Lucy, I heard there are rumors saying you are Duke Cassio's lover. The Marquis exclaimed, Lucy, are you okay? She answered blankly, I'm fine. Luciana was panicked, her face sinking. Only 2 days, and the rumor has spread this far. The Marquis of Leslie quickly comforted his daughter. Look at you being so surprised. It seems you haven't heard the news yet. Don't worry, it's nothing big, child. Mrs. Leslie also quickly comforted her. Your parents wanted to ask because we heard rumors about you and Duke Cassio. The two emphasized in unison, word by word, that it really is just gossip. Right, child? Hearing this, Luciana looked at them blankly, not daring to say a word. She hesitated, then spoke just as I thought. That's right. Luciana's eyes were full of determination. I know Duke Cassio, but not as a lover. I just received his help. Hearing this, the Marquis froze in place blankly. Help? She lowered her head, thinking further. That matter. The fleeting memory at the Spring Festival. I didn't intend to talk about what happened at the Spring Festival. Luciana sighed wearily. But in the end, I have to mention it. She decided to explain everything. When I was confused, young Master Dimitri behaved rudely towards me. Then, the faces of the Marquis and Marchioness were filled with horror. Luciana kept her head down and said steadily, Duke Cassio, whom I didn't know, was nearby at the time, and he intervened directly and stopped young Master Dimitri. The Marquis narrowed his eyes and worried. I didn't expect something like that to happen. Why didn't you tell your parents immediately that day? She squeezed out a smile. Anyway, the matter was resolved peacefully. I was afraid saying it would make you worry. The Marchioness breathed a sigh of relief. Lucy, it's okay. Your parents aren't saying this to blame you. Her eyes suddenly became serious, that I was just thinking about how to deal with that eldest son of the Dimitri family who dared to bully my Lucy. It seems the rumors were overly exaggerated. The Marchioness looked at her husband and made a decision that we must visit Duke Cassio personally. Luciana tried hard to squeeze out a smile. Yes, that's right. Then she quietly returned to her room. The rumors have already reached my parents' ears. Luciana's face remained gloomy. This is a big deal. I can't lie anymore. The Duke's strange behavior is getting worse because of the brand. I know there is no other way. But she sighed wearily. I didn't expect things to change so fast. The person the Duke met that night, Luciana emphasized word by word, should have been Deborah, not me. She looked at her dressing table. Therefore, I must not be swayed by the Duke's behavior. I should focus on what needs to be done. Luciana kept reminding herself, I'm just an obstacle hindering their love. Getting rid of the brand will solve everything. She looked at the potion bottle and made up her mind that if that happens, everything will return to its original track. Even stood stiffly and announced, my report is complete. The investigator will come to report to you soon, Duke. Lick held the documents and observed. I understand. She bowed, then excuse me. After that, even left quickly. Today's captain is as calm as ever. But she suddenly remembered a scene from the past. During the Spring Festival, he became like that, simply like a different person. I even believed that it felt like sitting in a runaway carriage, and the person driving the horses was the captain. I even thought he asked me to be his partner, to investigate the person being hunted. Behind the scenes, even tried to dig deeper. What happened that day didn't seem like an ambush. Something suspicious happened that day. Wait, the lady associated with the captain had pink hair. Even reached out, connecting the clues like a detective. Didn't those people the captain scolded last winter mention pink hair? Those hopeless 3 brothers. She leaned against the wall, piecing everything together. Now that I think about it, that lady's reaction was also strange, looking more flustered than necessary. Even's face suddenly flushed red with embarrassment, secretly liking romance. Those two really. Meanwhile, Lick grabbed the documents irritably. I know it's my fault, but I didn't mean to. I keep thinking about Luciana. Lick recalled everything on the day of the Spring Festival. He couldn't help but praise. Too beautiful. Lick's face immediately sank, but the result of the spring goddess was. Thinking of this, he felt extremely disappointed. He rubbed his chin irritably and disdainfully. In the end, I can only endure. Lick recalled his words in shock. This Spring Festival is canceled. How dared I say Miss wasn't fit to be the spring goddess? Anyway, my thoughtless words. He continued to ponder. Should I send someone to quell the rumors? Suddenly, a loud voice shouted, Has the investigator arrived? Lick ordered calmly, Come in. Rick bowed respectfully. Greetings, Duke. He questioned sternly. Do you have any new findings about the person behind the fallen emblem? He announced slowly. In the past few days, I investigated carefully throughout the capital, but found no clues. Rick stammered, I apologize, Duke. I heard the Duke is particularly interested in this matter. He closed his eyes tightly, trembling all over. How will he react? Fine. Suddenly, an atmosphere of silence flashed by. Rick looked up blankly. That I should be glad, but his reaction is not what I expected. Lick thought sadly, what kind of trick did that guy use? Not even a trace can be found. He raised his hand to rub his chin. If he possesses such ability, then he must have realized he is being hunted, or perhaps I should retreat temporarily. Suddenly, Lick flinched. Realizing the word retreat, his eyes widened in surprise. That if I am careless, I might never catch them in this lifetime. Yet I thought of retreating. Why am I so indifferent? Lick quickly recalled everything. I can't find any clues about the person who forced the brand on me, but I don't feel resentful. He stared at the ground in shock, as if he wasn't resisting the brand at all. Lick pondered for a moment, then spoke. I'm not resisting the brand. Why is it like this? A hand reached out with a devilish smile. Interesting. My mind is full of images of a destined mate. You actually want things to stay like this forever, isn't it? Lick's other personality smiled maliciously. If I say it's not true, then the fact that I feel calm is the truth. He covered his face wearily and shook his head. I can't deny it. Rick asked awkwardly, Duke, are you all right? He suddenly started sweating profusely. I apologize. If you wait a little longer, Duke, I will definitely find clues. Lick refused coldly, and he stood up resolutely. I'll go find it myself. Thus, Lick ordered, Godwin, bring my sword and cloak. The old man nodded seriously. Yes, I understand. He didn't forget to instruct as he left. You can go rest. Rick wanted to say something but stopped. But if you go alone, Duke, I obey. Lick reached out, pondering that I hope this brand continues to exist. He flinched, comforting himself. That's not true. I'm just a little confused right now. Adelia smiled back happily. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Mississippi Deborah giggled politely. I should be the one thanking you, Your Highness. The second Princess Adelia waved her hand incessantly. You are fully qualified, miss. Don't be so modest. Hearing this, Deborah lowered her face, smiling secretly. That weren't you the protagonist of the spring festival, miss? She then brought up another matter. Even in the palace, they have been talking about you, miss, and another rumor has caused a sensation. Deborah asked blankly. A rumor? Adelia clicked her tongue and explained. I heard Duke Cassio and the Marquis of Leslie's daughter. She laughed loudly. Are lovers. Deborah's face froze, completely stunned. Adelia continued to add fuel to the fire. How funny. As far as I know, those two have never crossed paths. Seeing she didn't react, she raised her voice, teasing, isn't it? They really played a trick on us. If the other party was you, miss, it would be excusable, but this time it's different. Deborah waved her hand awkwardly to deny. It's not like that at all. After all, I'm the only one in unrequited love. Adelia smiled smugly to herself. This lady is jealous. Her eyes flashed with malice. Should I call this a pity or stupidity? Even so, therefore, Adelia propped her chin and asked further. This is getting more interesting. Who knows, you might also become the object of the Duke's admiration. Mississippi Deborah lowered her face sadly. With Duke Cassio. How dare I? How could Duke Cassio pursue someone weak like me? Adelia took a deep breath and thought resolutely. Enough joking. Now I must comfort her. Seeing her trembling like that, it seemed her joke went too far. She announced loudly, originally rumors are like that. Just baseless nonsense. That Duke Cassio fell for Miss Luciana Leslie at first sight. Adelia winked playfully. That we can't believe that. She reached out to comfort. So don't worry too much. Mississippi Deborah nodded obediently. Yes, Your Highness, thank you for your concern. Your Highness. Adelia smiled happily. It's nothing. If anything troubles you, miss, feel free to tell me. Afterwards, Deborah got into the carriage and went home. On the way, she was upset that it seems the princess just treats it as a rumor. A hint of worry flashed in Deborah's eyes. Your Highness hasn't heard about that matter yet, right? Is it? Lick's image emerged. This spring festival doesn't count. Deborah rubbed her chin and speculated. Besides, I've never seen her before. Just like natural partners. She thought sadly, they look very compatible. Deborah clutched her dress angrily. She looked out the window firmly. That I can't just sit and wait. The scene switched to a chic and exquisite clothing store. The receptionist announced happily, Welcome to Dan Palmer. Hana clothing store. Distinguished guests. Mrs. Leslie walked in calmly. Where's the men's wear? The clerk bowed respectfully to men's wear is on the right side of the first floor. Distinguished guests. She winked at her husband. Choose whatever you like. Luciana whispered, I want to see some simple jewelry as a gift. The astute receptionist guided her. You can go to the second floor. Thank you. She looked around. A birthday gift for Dad. Which one is suitable as a gift? Let me see. Deborah flinched and looked from a distance. She exclaimed innocently, Miss Leslie. Luciana looked up in confusion. Deborah. She approached with a shy smile. That we meet again, miss. Are you doing well? She stammered in reply. I'm fine. Luciana smiled awkwardly. I didn't expect to run into Deborah here. Suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Deborah remained silent, looking at her without speaking. Afterwards, they looked at each other for a long time. Luciana felt incredibly awkward and uncomfortable. Why is the atmosphere so cold? Let's finish quickly and leave here. I'm going to continue shopping now. She turned to look at the pile of jewelry, but she couldn't just pick one casually. She picked quickly. Then Luciana's hands became clumsier. Why does it feel harder to choose than before? Deborah spoke up immediately. That. She approached quickly and asked, Miss Leslie, I know it's rude of me to be like this, but hearing the next words, Luciana's face went blank. May I ask what is your relationship with Duke Cassio? A look of sadness flashed in her eyes. Luciana took a deep breath and explained slowly, the rumor about us being lovers is false. We don't know each other at all. She clasped her hands tightly to her chest. I'm just telling the truth. Why does it feel so stifling? Luciana commented casually. I was also startled by that rumor. We absolutely don't have any relationship. Deborah lowered her head and smiled gently. Yes, oh, that's how it is. She expressed shyly. I'm sorry. I just wanted to know. Do you feel the same way as me, miss? Luciana looked over in confusion. The same feeling as you, miss? Deborah hugged her arms awkwardly. Aren't you also here to choose a gift for Duke Cassio, miss? Hearing this, Luciana's face went blank. Why would she misunderstand like that? Deborah revealed honestly, actually, I also intend to give the jewelry you pointed at to the Duke, miss. Hearing this, Luciana became even more flustered and confused. What? You have good taste, miss. I am looking for something suitable to give my father. Hearing this, a look of realization appeared on her face. Our family hasn't had a chance to go out for a long time. My mother is also choosing new clothes for my father. Downstairs, suddenly, Deborah grabbed her hand. Miss Leslie. She looked with innocent eyes. I should apologize to you for saying unpleasant things, miss. Luciana laughed loudly. It's nothing. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask. She slipped away quickly. I also said all sorts of nonsense unconsciously. I have to go buy another gift. Deborah's gaze followed her slowly. She revealed a mysterious smile. Goodbye. Miss Leslie. That night, the light in Luciana's room was still on, and she was concentrating on preparing the potion. Luciana thought worriedly, is the smoke stable? And the current color. She raised her hand into the air happily. When completed, the potion will emit an orange glow. Finally succeeded. After so many trials, finally got a result. Luciana held 2 bottles of potion confidently. I need to prepare quickly. If the potion is successful, her eyes were full of determination. Then today, the curse will be broken. Luciana thought naively about the future. Great, the strange rumors will disappear, and I won't have to worry about lying anymore. I won't see Lick's strange appearance anymore either. She smiled smugly, crossing her arms tightly. Luciana exclaimed happily, I feel so light. Suddenly, her face turned pale, speechless. Luciana looked away abruptly. What's wrong with me? I thought I would feel relieved, but I feel uneasy in my heart. She quickly dismissed this absurd thought. It's just that I'm not used to this changing situation yet. Once everything is over, I will feel relaxed. So, let's finish this quickly. Afterwards, Luciana went to see him. She bowed carefully. Greetings, Duke. Lick asked in surprise. You arrived. He suddenly noticed what the lady was holding in her hand. Luciana showed off happily. The first bottle of potion is complete. She imagined various things about Lick in confusion that he will probably be very happy. What? Let's drink it quickly and go our separate ways. He stared at it blankly for a long time. Suddenly, Luciana's eyes became curious. I thought he would be happy, but he didn't say anything. Lick slowly expressed his doubts. If I drink that, will the curse be broken immediately? Luciana answered politely, yes, if it works. Because the color is orange. I'm very hopeful. Hearing this, he felt somewhat reluctant. She is looking forward to this. Luciana quickly comforted him. This is the result of many research trials, so you don't have to worry, Duke. Why isn't he saying anything? Does he not believe it? She made a decisive decision. Then I'll drink first. When the potion was about to reach her mouth, Luciana closed her eyes. Lick quickly stepped forward to stop her. Wait. Luciana's eyes also widened in surprise. He blocked her awkwardly. Are you really going to drink it, miss? Luciana couldn't say anything because his hand covered her mouth. Suddenly, Lick let go and shouted, I was worried you would drink it, miss, so unconsciously. She giggled and comforted him. It's okay. Luciana quickly explained in detail. Anyway, this potion suits me. She continued to drink it with relish. Lick's eyes held a trace of sadness and reluctance. Is it really ending like this? After drinking, Luciana's face froze in place. She bent over, her face pale. I can feel the potion spreading. The reaction happened immediately, exactly as described in the research log. Lick approached worriedly. Are you okay? Luciana coughed violently. I think I'm not very well. Suddenly, she kept coughing up syrup, startling him. Luciana. Lick quickly ran over to support her. He was anxiously a loss. I have to call the chief physician. Damn, I can't call him. Lick shouted unconsciously. Wasn't the potion complete? Miss, can you hear me? Luciana slowly opened her eyes. Then she slowly fainted. Lick shouted in panic. Hold on a little longer. He made a decision immediately. I'm going to pour the medicine into her mouth. No. Lick stared at her blankly. If this goes on. He gritted his teeth. Please forgive my rudeness. Thus, Lick drank the antidote in big gulps, and then he kissed Luciana decisively. Lick slowly passed the medicine through his mouth. Luciana slowly opened her eyes. I feel. She enjoyed it calmly. Oh, comfortable, so cozy. Then Lick gently released her lips. He quickly wiped away that rude kiss. Are you okay now? Luciana sat up immediately in embarrassment. Thanks to you, Duke. Lick sighed. You really drive people crazy, Mississippi. I don't need it anymore. Suddenly, he hugged her. Let's stop the research. Luciana asked worriedly. Stop the research? Lick fell silent sadly for a long time. Even after she became like that, she still wants to continue the research. You almost died, Mississippi. Luciana retorted in confusion. But if we stop now, this research will fail. Is there a problem with the new ingredients? She struggled uneasily. No, I have to go to the lab quickly. Even so, Luciana made up her mind. I'll try again. Let's just pretend this research never happened. Hearing this, Lick was speechless with embarrassment. He sighed, expressing his feelings. I am afraid of losing you, miss. I was wrong about lifting the curse. Lick emphasized firmly. For your health, miss, that is impossible. Let's stop the research. Luciana muttered to herself slowly. I don't know whether to continue or stop, but as the Duke said, she looked at her body sadly. Am I really clinging to something meaningless? Please give me time to think about it. Mary skipped happily. Haven't been out for a long time. She saw herself in the mirror as she passed by. It's as if today is a special day. Mary examined them carefully. Perhaps because the lady had given me these earrings. They looked particularly elegant, so I really liked them. She suddenly felt worried. The lady had looked so exhausted and lifeless lately. Mary then sighed. It must be because of that rumor circulating in high society. Why would our young miss be involved with a high-ranking noble like Duke Cassio? She decided to do something. The lady gave me earrings, so I want to give her something too. A voice suddenly rang out. Young lady over there. Mary turned around in confusion. Are you calling me? Or are you calling your niece? Dean handed her a piece of paper. Miss, may I ask if you know where this is? Mary looked at it and thought, this place isn't too far. The old man smiled gently and introduced himself. I apologize for taking up your time so suddenly, Mississippi. I am from Cullen in the East. I heard my son, who ran away from home years ago, is here. Mary chuckled softly. Cullen is quite far from here. My goodness, you've traveled such a long way. I'll take you there. With that, she quickly led the way to we're here. It's right around here. Dean firmly refused. I think we need to go a bit further in. Mary was surprised and confirmed again. Yes, but the address is definitely here. The old man didn't believe her and immediately turned away. They said I have to see that sign. Is that so? Mary looked at his retreating back with concern. The old man came all this way alone. I should accompany him. She quickly chased after him. I'll go with you. Mary's gaze suddenly stopped at a shop. Is that the sign? The two saw Nika standing there with his arms crossed. Dean shouted happily, son. The man looked over in confusion. Father? The old man ran over and hugged him tightly. My son. Mary watched the scene with a bright smile. I'm so glad he found his son. She quickly turned to leave. I can go now. Suddenly, Mary felt something was wrong. What was that sound? Her gaze swept to the side. The two men from before rushed forward and surrounded her. You actually followed us all the way here. What a naive little girl. Before Mary could react, she could only scream. She pointed at the old man in regret. Why did things turn out like this? Dean quickly reminded them. Just split it as agreed. Got it. Now get lost. She looked around, sobbing. It was all a scam, and no one was coming to help. Nika smiled maliciously and ordered, hand everything over, unless you want something bad to happen. Mary looked around again, awkwardly. What should I do? Should I run? She quickly thought and judged. Even if I run, the men standing there will catch me immediately. This is all I have. I'll give it all to you now. The man and his accomplice scoffed. Just this much? Nika quickly turned back to continue the extortion. Do you think this little bit of money is enough to save your life? What? He pointed sharply at her jewelry. Look closely. I think those earrings are of quite good quality. She covered her earrings tightly, her face darkening. These earrings are a gift from Miss Luciana. No. Nika cracked his knuckles and approached. Miss, or would you like us to rip your ears off? Mary screamed in panic. Help. Before she could finish, the man was kicked away. Shut your mouth. Mary was stunned and immediately went quiet. Who is it? She realized blankly. It's the security team. Nika was still struggling. Let go of me. Mary was trembling all over, still shaken. I thought I was done for. Just then, Rick helped her up without a word. It took a moment for Mary to regain her composure. She quickly wiped away her tears and sobbed. Thank you so much. Rick's eyes widened in surprise. Wait, this woman. Isn't she the one I met in Rodwell? She probably doesn't recognize me anymore. He slowly approached. Are you hurt anywhere? She said softly, I'm fine. Rick felt a pang of sympathy. Seeing a cheerful girl cry like this really feels bad. He immediately handed over a handkerchief. Use this if you need it. Mary took it happily and gave a bright smile. Thank you very much. Rick blushed and froze for a few seconds. He turned away awkwardly. Well then, I'll be going. Mary touched her chin. Why does that voice sound so familiar? I feel like I've heard it somewhere before. Carl stepped forward and asked, Excuse me, I need a statement regarding that old man who ran away. Miss, please wait a moment. Once the security knights arrive, we will take you to headquarters. She happily agreed to cooperate. Okay, of course. Just then, Mary suddenly thought of someone. This voice sounded a lot like that knight named Rick. A glint flashed in her eyes. Wait, this familiarity isn't just from the voice. I feel like I encountered a similar situation today. The memory surfaced. Who do you work for? Mary was startled. It's the voice of that man who delivered things in Rodwell. She quickly recalled everything. Why would the miss know someone from Duke Cassio's household? Carl waved happily. You're here, come on in. Mary's eyes widened in realization. Wait, I might be able to see that man again now, right? She looked around sadly. He wasn't there. Mary stepped forward and asked, the person who came with you, did he leave? Carl shrugged casually. You mean Rick? I don't see him anywhere. Looks like he might have left early. Mary frowned sadly. If it really is that person, I wanted to say hello. Carl turned his head sharply to explain. He's quite good looking. It's just a pity he's on leave today, so he's wearing plain clothes. Mary looked at him in confusion. Yes? You mean a uniform? He immediately emphasized, that's right, that guy is a knight of the Duke Cassio household. Hearing this, Mary's face went blank. What? The Cassio family? Luciana approached Mary with concern. I heard what happened. Are you all right? She quickly proposed a condition. You should rest for a few days, shouldn't you? The girl smiled brightly. I'm completely fine. Sorry to worry you. Miss Luciana placed her hand on her chest. You don't know how panicked I was when I heard the news. Honestly, it's such a relief that the security team found you. Mary smiled gently, yes. Her eyes looked a bit sad. Actually, the knight who saved me wasn't from the security team, but a knight from Duke Cassio's household. Mary recalled everything in frustration. My head is about to explode because of that knight. It's that rude guy who delivered things to me in Rodwell again. So, the person who has been exchanging things with the miss all this time is Richter Cassio. The two of them really have a private connection. Then Luciana spoke up. Mary, she expressed her concern. I'm sorry. Did I look like I was interrogating you just now? The girl gestured awkwardly with her hands. No, miss. Mary's eyes turned serious. The miss is so worried about me. And what was I thinking just now? From now on, I must keep a close eye on Duke Cassio. She raised her hand firmly. If he dares to make the miss sad, I will absolutely never forgive Duke Cassio. Luciana hurriedly asked, but what is that in your hand? Mary suddenly remembered. Sorry, miss, this is an invitation for you. She looked at it closely in confusion. An invitation for me? How unexpected. We hope the miss can grace our Pride retreat with her presence. The schedule is for 2 days, and the miss will stay overnight. Luciana read the last line carefully. To meet occasionally. She pondered various things suspiciously. Why would Miss Nevia send me an invitation? Richter also picked up the letter. He observed it thoughtfully for a long time. Richter looked at the header in doubt. Haley Nevia? Isn't that the name everyone is talking about lately? She must know I won't go. Is she plotting something? He paced back and forth anxiously. And Miss Leslie, is she okay? I hope she recovers quickly. Richter remembered something, his mouth gaping open. She isn't secretly doing research, is she? In that memory, he had shouted, we don't need to do research anymore. At that time, she hadn't given a clear answer. Richter paced back and forth dozens of times again. She coughed up blood because of the research. Could it be? His eyes became hollow, and his face darkened completely. Could it be? Luciana was strolling leisurely in the garden. The flowers of this plant can be used as herbs. She decided happily, I'll pick a few. They might be useful later. Should I pick them? When were they planted? Wait, I can use this as a substitute for research material. Luciana continued picking flowers. Of course, the Duke said not to do research, but no matter how I think about it, I feel I should continue the research. She laughed happily. Well, I'll pick them first. I'll look deeper inside. Luciana's eyes froze on the spot. What am I seeing? She frowned and looked at him closely. Why is the Duke standing in my garden? Luciana quickly pulled him into a corner. What are you doing here? What if someone finds you? Richter smiled awkwardly and retorted, no one has found me yet. She shouted angrily, but I found you. Goodness, if my parents saw you. He immediately took a step closer. I apologize for making the miss uncomfortable. Luciana quickly saw through this trick. Oh no, here we go again. How much more does he intend to make me blush? No, I have to change the subject quickly. She proposed seriously, Duke, I've thought a lot recently, and I really think we should still continue the research. Would the Duke agree with my opinion? Richter remained silent. He looked away somewhat dejectedly. I understand. She was a bit confused, but mostly happy. What? I thought he would object. He accepted it faster than I imagined, and I've been worrying to death these past few days. Richter coldly stated a condition. However, I have one condition. I will be the one to drink the potion. Luciana looked at him blankly and confirmed. Yes? Richter frankly stated his thoughts. If I see the miss coughing up blood again, I think I'll go crazy. Hearing this, Luciana felt somewhat touched. She turned her face away awkwardly. Sorry to scare you. Richter explained honestly. No need to apologize. I'm just worried about the Mississippi. Luciana's face flushed bright red. The problem is right here. You're confusing your own feelings with the effects of the curse. He added calmly, during this time, I have kept the entire ingredient list the miss gave me. I will proceed to test the reactions of all the ingredients on the list. Hearing this, Luciana stared at him blankly. Is the Duke going to do such complicated work? Richter chuckled lightly. This way, even if the miss changes the test subject, there won't be any problems. Luciana lowered her head and agreed. He's too considerate. It makes it hard for me to refuse. Yes, thank you, Duke. Then we'll meet again in 3 weeks. Richter expressed confusion. Why delay it another week? She explained seriously, because I have a personal matter. He pressed like a strict parent. Personal matter? What kind of personal matter? He's questioning too aggressively. Luciana told him without shyness. I was invited to a gathering. Richter was immediately confused. A gathering? He immediately reminded her with concern. You just coughed up blood. The miss is pushing herself too hard. Luciana was a bit annoyed. Duke, I said. I'm fine. Richter took a step closer, but I don't think so. He deliberately cupped her face. Your face is so red. Do you have a fever? Luciana retorted shyly. I'm not blushing because I'm sick. I have a slight fever. Richter quickly concluded. As expected, your body hasn't fully recovered. She pushed his hand away and turned around. It's not like that. Luciana looked away shyly. Anyway, I will go Miss Nevia's villa that day. Haley Nevia? She was startled and looked straight at him. You know Miss Nevia? Richter crossed his arms. Looking annoyed, of course I know her. Isn't she the one who hurt the miss? He sighed with frustration. Rumors are everywhere saying she hurt the miss out of jealousy. Luciana quickly waved her hand to deny it. What? Those are baseless rumors. Richter's eyes widened in realization. Miss, You cannot go. Inviting the miss to her villa so suddenly like that. I suspect she has ill intentions. Hearing this, she also wondered about the reason Miss Nevia invited her. Luciana naively repeated the words from the letter. I wish to formally apologize to the miss for what happened before. I hope a miss can come. Richter warned her seriously. It's precisely because she wants to apologize for what happened at the spring festival that it's suspicious. You don't know. She might even take her anger out on the miss for no reason. She started looking at him awkwardly. Seriously, what are you saying? Why would the Duke think that? Luciana stubbornly crossed her arms. I already said I would attend. It's too late to say I won't go now. Richter then took a step closer and instructed, Luciana, don't try to call my name so sneakily like that. Suddenly, she glanced at him without a word. The Duke is really scary when he does that. Luciana's heart struggled constantly. But why does he look so cute sometimes? No, snap out of it. Mary announced loudly, Miss, we've arrived. Luciana smiled brightly and said, it really is close to the capital. As soon as she stepped out of the carriage, Haley approached Miss Leslie happily. She shouted with joy, thank you for coming. Luciana looked at her blankly. Miss Haley. Haley quickly welcomed her guest. I have so many things I want to show the miss. Come, let's go this way. Luciana felt something was off. Are we really that close? I feel a bit flustered. She opened her eyes wide in horror, looking towards the source of the voice. Luciana was completely confused and panicked. Why is the Duke here?